Hey everybody, Candace Rose here, back at Recovery Corner, and I'm here with my friend and guest, Alex Vick. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy you're here, man. So Alex is here in Durango, Colorado, and he's the co-founder of a youth-centered community hub called The Hive, where community is queen.
Community is queen at the Hive.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about the Hive. It's a place that I really love. We actually do our Durango Young People in Recovery, all recovery meetings there. But yeah, I guess I don't know where we should start. If we want to talk a little bit about you for just a couple minutes, or if you want to just like dig into the Hive and then we can kind of like your story might unfold out of that.
Yeah, maybe we start with the Hive and work backwards a little bit. So the Hive was conceptualized 3 years ago between myself, Jeffrey Hamner, and Kelsey Borland. And the three of us found out that we were kind of working in the community in different factions and thought it would be advantageous for us as well as fellow community members if all of the work we were doing was under one roof. So I had been working in the music scene quite a bit, setting up shows, starting a short-lived DIY venue, sober space called Sweet 101 that lasted for about 8 months before we got evicted for being too loud and having too much fun. And
a sober space where you were being too loud and having too much fun.
Yes.
You can rage in recovery.
Oh yeah. And I feel like, there's a lot of with alcohol, some people will drink to diminish those inhibitions. And what I have found in my path leaving alcohol is that I was using alcohol to avoid inhibitions, but I'm finding that it was entrapment because I was only then acting one way instead of expressing my full self.
Right.
And so the idea for me around a sober venue space is that people can come there and be their true selves and feel that acceptance. And so when Sweet 101 fell out, there was a hole once again in the community, and I felt that very strongly. So I would host open mic nights at different places, bars, and would find that it didn't feel as real. It was veiled by the use of booze, and people were coming for music, but they were still coming to drink. And so the music wasn't the life of the party, the beer was. And I love music so much that I think it deserves our undivided attention. And the artists that are performing deserve our attention because they're putting themselves in a vulnerable space. And I found for myself with my use of alcohol that I wasn't allowing myself to be vulnerable, and I was kind of faking it to everybody. And until the alcohol came too much and I broke down and I was crying, and and then it was like, now I'm just in a pity party mess. And like, that's not even reality either. That's like exemplified sour feelings.
Right.
And so there was no recovery from those feelings because first I was masking them and then them coming out in a more dramatic and even unrealistic way. So I was doing all this work with music, and Kelsey got me a job running open mic night at the Roost. And that was fun, and it scratched the itch for a little while. And I knew that wasn't the scene that I really wanted to work to cultivate and nurture. And Kelsey had been doing work with Snowboard Outreach Society, a youth mentorship program, and has helped at the soup kitchen and at the like halfway house and things like that. And so she's been very involved with the community for a lot of years. And Jeff, I always knew from the skate park and up at Purgatory, just because he's just a loud, stoked, vibrant guy, and his energy and his dress and his smile, all of it just like stands out. Yeah,
he's definitely got a presence.
And he does a great job of captivating the youth with his energy because it's so high that people are drawn to that, and especially kids, because he also has the energy to keep up with them and even surpass their energy sometimes. And so the three of us recognize that we're all doing this work individually, and just as anything else, if we work in unity, we can create something stronger and more long lasting and more impactful. And so that's when we started the Hive. And we got into our first space in, what was that, 2019. So we're pushing almost 4 years now from the idea, from when we got together to now. And so I think it was, when was the pandemic? When did that start?
2020.
2020. That's right. Okay. So we got our,
remember to forget that.
So then, my timeline is a little off. 2019 was the conception. 2020, we moved into a brick and mortar spot at Main and College. And it was a little shop at
space.
Yeah. Concrete skate shop, which was this tiny little retail spot. And we had just enough room to put in a couple of art tables and a jukebox and Kelsey's desk. And that was it. And so we would host some art workshops. And then we had our first show, and then COVID hit, and we had to kind of rethink how we were going to approach this.
Right.
And we felt that the need was still strong, because in isolation, we're kind of left to our own devices. And so maybe we slip into bad habits. And we wanted to find a way to still engage the youth, engage community members, so that they could be hopeful, looking forward, rather than wallowing and maybe even recognizing bad habits that started coming back up. And then, some of that self-deprivation starts happening, where you're down on yourself because you see these bad habits encroaching, and then it's kind of like a spiral. So we wanted to find ways where we could avert that or pull people out of the spiral. So we started doing videos called Treat Yourself Tuesdays, where we would do any workshop, any how-to DIY video, where we would do art stuff, we would do skateboarding stuff, music, cooking, anything that we just thought would be fun and that youth and community members could create with tools that they already had in their house.
Oh, cool.
So they didn't have to go anywhere to get the material.
Right. So there were like tutorial videos that you would just share out and people could just do on their own time.
Right.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yep. And there was a couple videos that we did send out with materials. Before we released them, we asked if there was if people wanted to participate, and we would send them material. So that way when the video aired, they'd have everything that they needed.
So cool.
And then another thing that we did was we got a bunch of art kits donated from the art supply house and distributed those amongst the community. And lastly, like our big push during lockdown was boards for the board. So we put out a prompt that said, write the Hive a letter about how a skateboard would benefit your life. And we got a bunch of boards donated from John Agnew at the boarding house, and we gave away like 12 skateboards. And a good handful of those kids now come to the Hive and participate in skate lessons. And one kid is even now teaching skate lessons.
Really?
And yeah.
How old is he?
She is 12.
Oh.
Yeah. And she's killing. Her name is Ashton, and
That's so
and
rad.
she's such a positive light And it's just awesome having that young female presence, even talk shit to some of the boys and like be able to hang and take slams and get back up as good as anybody else. And is a great example for other girls and other women who are coming into the space who are interested in skateboarding, and even pushes the guys too.
Right.
And that's what I love about skateboarding, is that co-creative space. And same thing with art and music. And so just this last March in 2021, we got into a bigger space so we could fulfill our dream in its entirety of having a music venue, skate space, and art space. And this has been, all of these elements have been pivotal in my life, whether or not I always recognize them. I was fortunate enough to be able to like sit down and draw at a very young age with my dad. And he's a great artist and now makes cigar box guitars and goes on tour to hippie festivals and sells them. And just like listening to music was always like moved me, and rock and roll specifically just captivates me and grabs my attention and makes me feel whole. And I think that there are so many things on this earth that captivate us and draw our attention. And I think it is our mission as humans to explore what captivates us here on this earth, like what excites us, what gets us in that flow state, and to pursue that. I feel like that's one of my purposes on earth, is just to find what makes me feel good, and not the instant gratification, but the feel good that lasts. And alcohol provided that instant gratification and that instant release, until everything bubbled up to the surface and then exploded out in a negative way. And because I was incoherent, I couldn't even see myself having these feelings, so I couldn't move through them.
Right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of us too, like we just kind of become conditioned to avoid that discomfort when there's like so much opportunity for growth when we sit through it. But yeah, it's so much easier to just, pick up a drink or a drug and set it aside or bury it, But then, when we get substances on board, like we lose that ability to like regulate, and it all just like kind of comes piling out. And for me, like, I know that created a lot of like disastrous situations, just like burying all the difficult situations. And then, had enough drinks that, usually it was like a common occurrence for me, like end of the night, I'm just like exploding with emotion and like directing it, projecting it on like everybody around me. So yeah, you brought up a lot of really cool things as you were kind of talking about like the evolution of the Hive, but specifically the story with that young lady that's you gave that skateboard to, like that's one of the things I really like about the Hive is I think youth and young adults, like given the right opportunities, like, you inspired you and, Kelsey and Jeff, like through that prompt, you inspired these kids to like express themselves. And to, I'm sure, just to see that girl kind of grow, like keep just moving forward with that momentum. Like, this is what skateboarding, this is what it means to me. This is what it'll do for me. And now she gets to kind of share that gift as she teaches people and gets to like ride with people. So I think it's really cool that, like, maybe her and her family couldn't have like afforded to get her on a deck at one point, but given the opportunity now, she's like flourishing. I just think that's so cool.
And we see the success of the Hive as the success of the individual participant within the Hive. And I think that little story about Ashes is an example of that. Because we want to pass on passions, that way it just keeps flowing down the line. And it's a domino effect, and it just depends on what force do we want to start the dominoes falling, positive or negative, because it always ripples. There's always causality. And So we want to make sure we're putting in good at the beginning to set those dominoes going.
Right.
And I think for me, that was where I slipped through the cracks a little bit in my youth, was because I didn't have a place to go where I felt like I could be 100% myself. And it even sometimes started off in the home at a young age. And I've worked through a lot of healing with my mom. And there were times growing up where me and my little brother would be having a good time sitting around, maybe getting a little rowdy and rambunctious, and mom would come down super hard. And what that felt like as a child was that, oh, I'm just being me, I'm having fun. That makes mom upset. So I can't be myself.
Oh gosh.
Because that hurts people. Mm-hmm. It triggers people when I'm being myself. Mm-hmm. And so as I grew up, I took that baggage with me. And when I got into high school, started smoking pot and would drink a little bit, but wouldn't drink that much, just because I liked smoking weed so much more. But there were definitely times where I got out of control and would lose myself and find myself having to apologize to people the next day. And so in the pursuit of finding where I could fit in and be myself, I was still hurting other people. And so it reinforced that idea that Alex Vick is not okay as Alex Vick. Mm. And when I came to college, I got, thrown into a whole new scene, trying to understand my own identity. Where do I fit in this new world? I got arrested for mushrooms, and that spun my life all wild.
How old were you?
I had just turned 18. I turned 18 in July, and I went to college in August, and I got arrested in October. And where I think like plant medicines can be good and useful, and help to correct some traumas, or at least give us the vision to better understand our traumas. Mm-hmm. I wasn't using them in this way. I was partying, Yeah. And so then once marijuana was taken away from me, I started drinking really hard. Mm. And I'd have to go take breathalyzers up at Hilltop House, and I'd find someone who's 21. So that way, on the way there or on the way back, we could get some booze. And so I'd go in, take my breathalyzer, get in the car, and drink.
Wow.
And I'd black out 4 nights a week or something like that.
Wow. I say wow, I can relate, but but it's interesting though, like our criminal justice system. I think things are changing now, relatively, like little by little, but in their eyes, this program that they put you on, they think, oh, we'll keep him sober and get him on the straight and narrow again. And in reality, it really just kind of like perpetuated the problem even further. Mm-hmm. Huh.
Yeah, big time. And I was way worse off. Because even while I was using pot and like maybe mushrooms, I don't know, as like some aversion, once that was taken away, then it was like, what's the next thing that can like kind of, I don't know, keep Alex Vick at somewhat of a distance. Mm. And so, yeah, I was drinking all the time. I was having anxiety attacks because everyone in the court system was telling me I was about to spend 3 to 5 years in prison. And so I didn't know the healthy way to deal with the anxiety and all these feelings. So I would attempt to snuff it out. And even after probation, now those habits were formed. Mm-hmm. And so I was just drinking and was working in the kitchen and at the Schrader, and we would go across the street to the Roadhouse and get hate drunk and vent all of our problems and complain about the chef and the waitress who did yada, yada, yada. Okay. And then wake up at noon the next day, be hungover as dick, go to work, do it all over again.
Wow.
And then around shortly after I left cooking, I started to realize like all that it went farther than the alcohol. It was lifestyle and like cooking and putting myself through that kind of like stress, and then being around the people who dealt with the stress with alcohol, like all of these things just like stacked on top of each other. And so when I was able to move away from the restaurant industry, I felt like I at least didn't have as much like stress to deal with, but was still going out and getting hammered. And then around this time I started like another band called Dirty Faces in Durango. And that's when we started Sweet 101. And when we started Sweet 101, it called me to that higher purpose of like, if we create a sober space, then one, maybe it keeps me out of some trouble. Two, it's our own place that I can call my own, where I can express myself through my music. Because just like growing up and having mom come down on me when I was in bands growing up, cops would show up, neighbors would get upset. Venue owners would kill the power on us. I had a bouncer escort us off stage one time.
Oh my gosh.
Just because we were playing music. And sure, like my flavor of music can get pretty heavy and Durango still isn't always prepared for that. But you know, so those were the same things that still concreted the idea that like Alex Vick is not okay. You have to stop what you're doing. Stop being you. Yeah. And so when we created our own space in Sweet 101 and had that ownership of it and seeing the immediate positive effect that I felt, I wanted to share that with others. And especially young people, high school students and college aged kids, because they don't have anywhere to go to be social, to experience live music, to experience the things that I felt were saving my life, like rock and roll. Right. Without being also in a bar setting, which I think pulls the shift away from the music, which is the medicine. And we rely on the illusion of the medicine that is alcohol. Right.
Well, so at this point, I don't know if we skipped over something or if it just wasn't made clear, but so when you started Sweet 101, had you like established that you were going to live a life like free of alcohol at that point, or was it just something that you were dabbling in?
It was something that I was considering, but I had not given up alcohol at that point.
But you still wanted the space to be, wow, that's pretty impressive right there. Just like making that distinction of how like music was such a like healing thing for you, healing power for you, and wanting to kind of keep that space sacred and authentic, but you were still like experiencing the life of a person drinking like outside of that space. Well, so how long did it take for you to kind of continue moving forward into that decision?
Around that same time, I started dating someone who was in recovery, and it all happened very serendipitously. Like I had lived at this house on 6th and College for like 6 years, and it was just party punk flop house, writing on all the walls, holes in the walls. We'd have wrestling matches, you know.
So where you lived with Adam?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know the place.
Yeah. So you know what the environment was like too. Yeah. And we had a mini ramp in the backyard, and it was just like anything goes. We'd like shoot each other with BB guns inside the house, and like it was ridiculous. And there was a lot of good times and also like a lot of really poor times that could have easily been wiped away without excessive alcohol involved.
Right.
So yeah, I started dating this person, and I started thinking about how if I was going to be in a partnership with someone, I wanted to be on the same plane as them, mentally. And she was never had the expectation of like don't drink around me or anything like that. But so that was a decision I made for myself. And then when we broke up, it was on a Friday the 13th, and we played a show at I forget what it was. It was the place where Durango Brewing Company always pops up, and then someone else, Chainless. Was the name of the spot.
Right. Okay.
So we played a show. My partner and I had broken up. I decided, well, maybe I was just doing it for her, so fuck it. And I got drunk and did some coke and was up all night talking about how I missed her and didn't miss the feeling of being fucked up. So that, and I walked home that night. I walked like a few miles home that night and just thought the whole time about how like this wasn't the mental space that I wanted to occupy, and I didn't think it was going to last. And
coming to that realization while you're intoxicated.
Well, I was, yeah.
Wow.
And also, you know, as the backboard of my friends, as I'm explaining it, I'm just like, man, this sucks right now. Like being drunk, I miss hanging out with her and like being sober and like them relating that back to me, you know? Mm-hmm. And so hearing it come out of my mouth and bounce back to me, I think was really impactful on like knowing what I wanted and hearing out loud what I wanted. And things didn't work out between my partner at the time and I, but I appreciate her being a catalyst for that. And even in the breakup, that being impactful enough to really know what I wanted and how I wanted to move forward. Yeah. So that was the last time I drank. And
so it was a Friday the 13th?
It's Friday the 13th in September of, I guess this September will be 4 years. So, or yeah, I want to say 2019. So maybe it's only 3 years or something.
So wait, September of 2019, you make this choice to abstain from alcohol, and then the pandemic hits?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother thing too, because that was hard on a lot of people. I mean, I work with people who, you know, they come to our recovery meetings, and before the pandemic, you've seen, I mean, we'll have like up to 25, 30 people in that meeting. And that was how it was before the pandemic. And then we went virtual, and it was like 8 of us showing up and, you know, trying to reach out to some of those people. But that was a tough time for people to like sustain their recovery, whatever it looks like, you know, like abstinence is one form. But I think, yeah, a lot of people sort of like fell into these like depressions, and the fact that you were able to kind of like muddle through all that and at like an early point in your journey, like that was tough on a lot of people. So I could only imagine being in early recovery, trying to navigate that whole like isolation situation that we were all forced into.
Well, there was a couple factors I think that eased it for me. One was that before that last time of drinking, I would have a max of like 3 PBRs every like month, and noticing even in my body as I was more like weaning myself off was that like 1 beer, yeah, there was a little release and it was like, oh, okay, I feel like pretty good. 2 beers, all right, yeah. The like first sip of the 3rd beer, I just felt like groggy and bloated and weighty and just like, this isn't what I wanted to achieve. And that was only happening like once every month, once every 2 months. And then it was really just like the breakup where I was like, well, I'm not accountable to anybody, so fuck it. And then realizing that's not what I wanted either.
Right.
And then I moved in with Jeff Hamner, one of the co-founders of the Hive, and he doesn't drink. So I was fortunate already to be in a sober house, chaotic in other ways, but at least there was no booze around. And and Jeff is really insightful and feels very deeply, and so I always had him to lean on. And he is such a good support and brings a lot of light into my life and in a lot of people's lives. And then also with the project of the Hive really gaining momentum at this time, it allowed me to focus on something. And I've been to a few meetings in support, and the idea of the higher power for me became the Hive. Because it was something bigger than myself, but for me, it was still something that was tangible, and I could see the direct effects of when I was on and how that lifted the Hive and my partners within the Hive, and the times where maybe I was going through something myself where I was the one who was kind of bringing us down. And so to give up of myself to something greater definitely helped. And to be able to see the results in a tangible way, because I feel like I feel a lot and I have good intuition, and I'm also a very like logical, tactful person. And so sometimes the idea of God and things like that is a little too big for me to wrap my hands around and to be able to see direct effect.
Right. Yeah. It's a big concept. Yeah. It's hard to like put a label on it, but I like, how you've sort of, and it's like you're building it too, like your higher power, like you are responsible for creating it. Which, I think that there's value in that too, because we have to take accountability for ourselves, and if we want to see something do well, like we need to put the energy into it. If we ignore it or do something negative, like then that's going to have an impact. So but yeah, so now, the Hive has grown a lot. Like I remember, it's been something that's been like talked about for so long, and then it was at Concrete. How long were you guys there for?
Like a year.
About a year,
maybe a little more than that, like a year and a half, 8 months or something like that.
Nice. So, what you did, similar to what I did with YPR Durango, like kind of went into it a little bit selfishly. Like, who are we kidding?
Yeah.
Like, we need this thing, so like we'll build it. That's just basically. But at the end of the day, like this thing that you built that I developed in Durango with YPR, like it benefits so many other people too. So it's like this space caters to what I want and desire. But like other people want those same things. We're human, it's only natural that other people are gonna share that similar like desire. So now you guys have the space at the Hive, which, do you know the difference in square footage between Concrete and your current space?
Astronomical. It's like,
so like Kelsey's office now is like the size of the whole location.
It'd be like the state of Rhode Island in comparison to like Texas.
Yeah, dude. It's like blown up, and now it's like it's not even just the Hive; it's the Hive Collective. You're sharing the space with In the Weeds, which In the Weeds is a hospitality industry support service. We all know that it's stress. You were even talking about what did you call it? Getting hate
drunk. Yeah.
I haven't heard that term before. I've probably participated in that, but I never had coined that term before. So yeah, there's that space, which is like really supportive of like wellness and health and mental health for that industry. And there's Oak Tree Resources, which is providing housing for like transitional aged youth or homeless youth. So there's all these like really good things going on. We come in and do our recovery meetings on Thursday. So not only are you serving like the folks that you intend to through the services, but you've like opened it up to other community agencies that are also like, the overall goal of everybody is just to like help each other in the community so that everybody succeeds. And it's so beautiful. But I did want to talk a little bit about though, like what the Hive offer. We talked about skateboarding. Skateboarding is definitely like the biggest thing that people love to do there. Like I just want to share too, the space that it's in used to have a skate park in it. Used to be the Shred Shed. Was the Shred Shed like a franchise, or was that just like a local?
I think it was just a local thing.
Oh, okay.
I heard someone, I picked up in conversation, someone said like another Shred Shed in like Farmington or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was just something that I heard and made me go, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. Like,
right.
I don't know.
But the evolution though, because well, and Kelsey's brother used to work there. Kelsey, who's one of his business partners. So that used to be a space for youth, but there was a little bit of a different dynamic going on there where there was, I mean, nobody's to blame or anything, but there was like, drug and alcohol use happening to some degree. So now it's like this space, it's transformed multiple times over the years, but now the Hive is there and it's rebirthed this skate spot, but with an emphasis on keeping it a sober space. So I don't know. I would just love to talk a little bit about what's going on there. I've got some other questions too, but yeah, what else, like what all are you offering there? What are you encouraging and inspiring the youth to do through the Hive?
Well, we want it to be like very conversational. Like we want to serve in the highest capacity, which I think means understanding the needs of the community, which is a conversation. And as kids come and join us, they get the opportunity to tell us how they envision the space, what kind of programming they want offered. And with that, there becomes more ownership and then more responsibility and more accountability on the individual level. And I think these things help to keep us on the path, because we know the reason, we're invested in the reason. And like you said, because it started out selfishly, I know this is going to benefit me. So if I put myself into it, I can see the results. Oh, hey, wait a second, Candace is benefiting too. Now this is a bigger thing. And the conversation becomes more three-dimensional. And so we start pulling in different ideas and different personalities and different visions to create something whole. Because by myself, Alex Vick, I would not have been able to achieve this. Kelsey Borland by herself, I mean, she's a powerhouse, but I don't know if she would have been able to do it by herself. Jeff, I don't know. And it took all three of us. And really, it took more than that. It took your participation with YPR and coming and doing it in the space. It took the relationship with Blaine. Like I've noted that everything in my life that I have, physical, idealistically or existential, whatever, is because of relationships with other people. If I was alone on this planet by myself, what a boring place to be. Well, like, what would I do? How would I learn anything? So we need interaction and we need engagement. And I think one thing that humanity is always searching for is connection and community. And we also want to maintain the idea of individual identity. And I think that sometimes is pushed so extremely in our country that we become hyper individualistic and then isolate ourselves from other people because we feel that there's no one else that's like us. So how would anyone else understand? Well, when you start going into these community spaces, and especially when it's passion-based, I can see, oh, I'm not the only one who likes skateboarding and grindcore. I can like see in front of me all the other people that enjoy it too. And so that kind of takes down some barriers between me interacting with you, because I can just see that you enjoy some of the same things that I do.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's cool that cultivating that too with the youth, and just introducing them to that, because a lot of us don't really learn that as teenagers, like how to be individuals but still understand that like we can still be connected. So introducing those concepts. I know there's a little bit of beef with like some of the skateboarders and scooter kids, but you're providing a space for them to also like learn how to work through that too. So
exactly. Hardship and difficulties are necessary for victory. And sometimes I've been trying to teach myself that maybe the more difficult the situation, the sweeter the victory. And to try and maintain that long view, even when I'm in the thick of it and feeling shitty, that the the classic idiom, this too shall pass.
Right.
And when it does, I'm going to be better for it.
Right.
And to be able to like really believe that helps accepting those hard times. And I feel like with greater acceptance of hard times, then there's not a need for the aversion to the hard time. There's not the need to hide the hard time with alcohol or drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at it as another gift, as a learning opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I like to say these things frequently to myself because I'm still very much learning what that means. And so I'm working to not complain, but if you hear me complaining, don't hold it against me. I'm working on it. And,
right.
And yeah, and so to be able to give people a space to find themselves and to experiment with passions
Mm-hmm.
and be like, oh, okay, skateboarding looks cool, but it also means I gotta fall and it means that I might get hurt. Maybe I want to do that. Well, we like to set up different times for specific demographics. That way we can cut away some of that red tape and some of that fear of maybe just going to the skate park where everyone's bigger than you, or everyone's male, or everyone's fast and everyone's cussing and drinking on the rocks or whatever.
Right.
So, you know, we have a ladies skate night. We have specific skate lessons designed for age groups. We've got an over 30 adult swim skate session. We've got a
adult
scooter.
Swim like the cartoons?
Well, I believe where that came from was from like a rec center, right? When you got to kick all the kids out of the pool because it's adult swim time.
Oh, gosh. I never knew that. My mind just goes to what is the Aqua Teen Hunger?
Master Shake.
Somebody dressed up like Meatwad riding on a skateboard?
Sure. If you want to, come on down in a Meatwad costume. And so that's like the skateboarding aspect. And another big aspect for me is music. And there's this band called Against Me, and they have this song, I forget what it's called, but one of the lines is, I want a scene where the music is free and the beer is not the life of the party. And because I want music to be accessible, because I felt the medicine in the music. And if the only place we have to see music in town is at a bar, then you have to be 21. And so all these kids who are working on experimenting in finding their passions and finding their identity don't get exposure to something that they may be captivated towards and want to pursue. And maybe then once they get old enough to 21, then it's not just about following the music. It's about following the scene too. And so the scene is also infused with booze. And it's just interesting. I've had so much more fun at DIY sober space shows all around the country than any big venue, because I think it also draws in different people who are more invested and committed to listening and understanding and witnessing the expression of the artist. And that's potent. And some of my favorite times have been at these sober shows where even maybe I get hit in the face by like the biggest, gnarliest dude in the whole joint. And then afterwards, he gives me the sweatiest, hairiest, grossest hug I've ever felt. And that feels like home.
Just a big old sweaty bear hug from some stranger.
So who hit me like 3 songs ago, you know? And
oh, man.
I've never considered myself as an angry person, but I think I'm an aggressive and intense person. And so I want a place where I can express those feelings in a safe, semi-controlled environment where everyone comes in with the metaphorical handshake, like it's okay to do that here. And that goes back to childhood trauma of it's not okay to do that.
Right.
It's not okay to bump into your friend. Why not? My friend said it was okay.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like there is a generation that even just that whole concept is hard for them to grasp.
Sure.
Like thrashing at each other. I'll stay on the outskirts of those. It's fun to watch.
It's fun to watch.
I'll
Yeah.
dance, but yeah, I feel like I would get eaten alive in one of those pits.
Well, at the Hive and at Sweet 101 before that, and most of the shows that I've been to, mosh pit is a much scarier place from the outside. And it looks way more intense from the outside. And once you're in there, like, I have a smile on my face the entire time.
Right.
The people that I look at around me have a smile on their face.
Right.
And, no one's like throwing fists.
Right.
We shoulder check each other and we bump around. And if someone falls, and this is the metaphor that we can take from the mosh pit into our community, when someone falls, everyone stops and picks them up.
Mm-hmm.
And checks in until there's a smile on their face, and then we go again. And we need that. And that's why we need participation from everyone, because everyone has something to offer. And I know for me, when I was drinking, it was because I didn't think I had anything to offer and thought that maybe I was only funny, maybe I was only charismatic when I was drunk.
Yeah, a lot of us do. It's hard. It's uncomfortable, like getting to know yourself, just pure, authentic self. It's really like uncomfortable because you're like, am I even gonna like me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, I still even have a hard time like receiving when anybody like tells me like, oh, thanks for everything that you do. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Like I still get uncomfortable around that, but just learning to like, yeah, just live in it. I mean, life is a crazy journey. So we never know sort of what to expect. So just kind of like getting comfortable being uncomfortable is the best way to like learn how to be ourselves.
That's half a life, right? Being uncomfortable. And so I want to be able to respect and better understand those moments of uncomfortability, because then it's a little easier.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I can provide that to others by clipping away that red tape of like, we'll put you in with your peers. Come here with the people that you may already know, and people who have a similar mindset, because we want to get to know you, because I know that everyone who comes to the doors has something to offer. I want to know them. I want to know what they can offer me, what I can offer them, and what we can then build together. Because as soon as someone else is involved, possibilities open up.
Yeah. Well, and I see that too with well, I don't know. Maybe I'm like totally off on a different tangent, and I just really want to talk about your like youth advisory board. But I love how it's like encouraging the kids, the teenagers, the people, whatever, humans at a young age to see how meaningful it can be to get involved. So there's a youth advisory board called the boards, and it's an acronym. It's an
acronym, a misspelled acronym, which I think is hilarious, because it's the Board of Radical Determined Students, BORDS. But it's kind of funny because it's the board. Oh, no, yeah, that's it. But I just think it's funny because they could have thrown an A in there and it would have been like skateboard, BOARDS.
Right.
But they liked the idea that it wasn't that.
Right.
And so if I was going to assign a name to them and it was going to be an acronym, I would say Board of Amazing Radical Determined Students.
Right.
So boards, skateboards. But I'm not in charge of that. And if I were to step in and say, no, you guys, that's doesn't spell anything, then I'm doing the same thing that I felt from my mom at a young age. I'm doing the same thing that the cops did when they showed up at shows, as the angry neighbor did when they showed up at a band practice. I'm telling them no for being who they are, for the creative spark that motivated them to create an acronym. Yeah. If I tell them that's not how it should be, I'm perpetuating the trauma that I received in my life. And so I'm working to be mindful and understand my traumas doesn't necessarily mean that I've moved through all of them yet. But I think if I can better understand my traumas, then I can at least not oppress anyone else with my trauma.
Yeah, very true.
Which is a start. And I feel like intergenerational trauma is a huge thing. And if we can live mindfully, we may not be able to heal the trauma from the past, but at least we can break the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And like I spoke about earlier, having a youth board is a huge benefit to us because it creates that ownership and responsibility and accountability within the mind of the youth.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's not Alex and Kelsey and Jeff's space. It's my space because I'm on the youth board of directors.
Right.
And when I say this is how I want it to go, Alex and Kelsey and Jeff do what I want to do. They lift me up instead of telling me those ideas don't work.
Right. So cool. I love that. I wish, well, I don't know. I'm just glad that there's opportunities for kids now to do that. And I mean, it makes sense too, it's a youth hub. So like, why wouldn't, the point of having like a youth advisory board just makes perfect sense. Cause like, I mean, we're not super young anymore. We're not old, but I don't know like what teenagers want to do. You spend more time with teenagers than I do, but who would I be to like dictate like this is what we're gonna do at this space for you? So the fact that there's actually like a little network of young people there to kind of curate the space to have a positive impact on their peers and bring people in together in this really healthy space. So love that. So they like, were you like come up with an acronym or they were just like, we're just going to make this acronym?
We thought that youth advisory board wasn't very snappy and asked them if they felt the necessity or inspiration to come up with their own name. Oh, and cool. That's what they came up with.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I also want to stress, like while we understand the need for engagement in such a pivotal age group, that being middle school, high school, and college age, we also encourage full participation from anyone within our community because we also think that intergenerational knowledge can be a huge advantage for us.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. It was something I wanted to touch on was kind of like the benefit of like youth adult partnerships. I mean, some of us grow up and we have like healthy adults in our life. Even still though, like just because you have a healthy relationship with an adult in your life, like you might not be somebody that you want to open up with or be able to get creative with. But then there's also some of us too who don't have those like stable adult figures in our life when we're growing up. So it seems like that's something that you're providing at the Hive either, and sometimes in partnership with like the parents, where it's like just very multifaceted, and it kind of brings it back to that like it's a space for anybody, no matter where they came from. If it's stable environment, an unstable environment, like whatever it is, like you're still promoting those healthy youth adult relationships. And I mean, I think too, as like older people, like there's a lot that we can learn from the kids, So yeah, I don't know. What's that like for you? Just like being able to kind of facilitate that with the youth?
Well, sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking. Sometimes I feel like some of the youth and students that I work with are almost more confident than I am. And it can be like intimidating. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm 15 years older than some of these kids sometimes. How am I going to relate? And instead of allowing all that to kind of like mix me up and think about what version of myself I need to present so that way they'll understand. No. Just be yourself, be real with them. Because I feel like kids are smart and kids are in tuned and they know when they're getting fed a line of shit. They know. Even if it's not firing off in their head at that moment, they know through intuition, like this doesn't feel right. Like, and And I feel like, I mean, even growing up, I heard my parents say like crazy things that didn't make sense. And I was like, what, why should I do that? Oh, because you said so, it was like,
Right.
well, that just like strikes that rebellion flame in me. Like, because you said so, if that's the reason, that's not a reason.
Right.
And,
Or else.
yeah, or else I'm in trouble. Like that negative reinforcement for an unfounded rule. Like what is that? None of that means anything.
Right.
and so yeah, I'm also learning how to be my authentic self with them and maintain a level of authority and discipline, because I feel like we all really want that. We all want routine. We all want to know where the boundary line is, because then we can't find our center without knowing where the edges are first. And so I think in our youth, that is our time to find where the edges are. And that's why there is rebellion. That's why we get that push and fight, because how far can I take it? Because I want to know where my middle is. And so when dealing with teenagers specifically, there's a lot of that. And sometimes, if some kids talking shit, I'll talk shit right back. And a lot of them like don't expect that. They expect the adult to be like, you can't talk like that, blah, blah, blah. And I'll just be like, oh yeah, like, all right, like we could take a couple little stabs at each other, but then we're gonna have a conversation about why did it get there? Why did we find ourselves there?
Right.
And are we actually upset, or are we just goofing, or what's going on? And so I think it's good for the young person and adult, because we've had more experience. We have a better understanding of where our middle is. And I think we still, life is constant push and pull to find that middle. And so I have my own techniques that are a little more positive and more safe for me to push my limit and find that middle ground. So when I feel that push from a young person, I'll push back a little bit so that they would know where that line is. So then we can talk about where the middle is.
I like that concept.
Yeah.
Like that whole like theory of like pushing the edge to find the middle. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I think, we're all out here to explore. And earlier I was talking about how there's so many things in this world that's available to us. So many resources, and more than just physical and material resources, but just like what engages that childlike wonder in us. And I wouldn't know what did that for me unless other people showed me different things. And I could be like, oh no, that like jam music doesn't do it for me. And it's only because I've gone to a couple like jam shows,
Right.
And that like skateboarding worked because I had an older friend growing up who introduced it to me. And so I think it's our role as adults when engaging and communicating with the youth is to be like, what do you like? And a lot of kids are like, I don't know. And you're like, okay, well, here's what I like. Let's check it out. And oftentimes, we know, just like by trying foods, even as a simple metaphor, when something's in your mouth, if you like it or not right off the bat. And so you can see that with kids and in their experimentation. And it's like, okay, that one didn't work. Well, how about we try this? I really like doing this. And then when the eyes light up, then it's like, okay, we found the thing. Now, how do we encourage the thing?
Right. Oh man. Very cool. Yeah. And like, I don't know, while you were talking about that, I was thinking when I was a young person, and I don't know if the experience was like this for you, but I mean, you talked a little bit about not feeling like you could be yourself because the way that you expressed yourself wasn't accepted. But I remember being a kid and like wanting to grow up, like wanting to like hurry up and be an adult, and like skip all that like childlike wonder. Like I felt like that was just such a, I don't know, elementary part of life.
Mhm.
So especially as I like became a teenager, so it's like you kind of like adulterate yourself, or that was how it was for me, you know, experimenting with alcohol and drugs. But then like in recovery or like, you know, for me, it's abstinence and sobriety. It's like, that's what saved me, is turning back to that stuff. Like
Mhm.
I got a pair of rollerblades. I'm
Mhm.
starting to try to make jewelry, like crafting, like all these like things that, you know, we really try to like encourage in young people so that they can explore who they are as individuals and learn how to express themselves in healthy ways. And so it's kind of, I guess it's been like a funny realization, just kind of like that I try to skip past all that and hurry up and grow up. And now as a 32-year-old woman, I'm like, well, I want to go back there and like maybe I do want to learn how to do these things. Like I play on a kickball team, and that everybody on the team is like, I haven't played since elementary school.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I think that we need to like sustain that sort of, that inner child in us. Like, yeah, we get older and problems change and whatever. We have to handle things a little differently. But I think that there's like a healthy component to keeping connected to those inner children within ourselves. So I like that you brought that up, and how, you know, you'll assist facilitation of these kids like trying new things, different things. Because even that too, like if you have like one adult in your life who's like, this is what I like I had that with my dad. Like it's funny because now I love hiking, but he wanted me to go hiking, and at the time I like didn't want anything to deal with it. But that was like one of the only things that he ever really like encouraged me to do, was like, let's go hiking. And I'm like 8 years old, like this isn't what I want to do. Now I don't know, maybe it was just to spite him, because now I love hiking. But I think talking to parents, whether it's with the parent or just like making sure that their kids have a space to be like, well, you know, let them taste the different samplings and find out what they're into. So thanks for doing that through the Hive. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know you do. The skateboarding thing is like a big hit there, and roller skating and scootering. Is that how you say it? Like scootering?
Yeah, I heard the kids say that they will go scoot.
Gonna go scoot.
Gonna go scoot.
Okay, scooter boarding.
But I guess if you're like in the process of doing it, I guess you are scootering or scooting. I don't know. I don't really know. And you know, like you even mentioned earlier, you know, like sometimes there's these like two camps of like skateboarding and scootering. And I feel like a lot of things, you know, when we see polarization of ideas, it's because of a lack of understanding.
Mhm.
And maybe because someone from the other side never thought to go approach the other side and say, why is it that you enjoy this more?
Right.
And not in a judgmental way,
Right.
but a place of like really wanting to understand and like meet the other person at their heart.
Mhm.
And we don't see too much of that, especially in our country and political divisive kind of environment that we're in right now. Like people, and I think it's because of a fear of being misunderstood. So you align with whatever party, with whatever group that you connect with off the bat, and then you stay there because you're at least safe there.
Mhm.
But you don't learn anything in that space. But if we can be humble enough and be compassionate enough to ask to truly work to understand someone else, then mutual growth and gain can happen. And so, you know, with the scooter kids, like sometimes it's just like a lack of understanding of skate park etiquette. And so when we have Two Wheel Tuesday from 4 to 6, which is our scooter time every Tuesday, I stand back there and just make sure that they're taking turns, that they make sure they have their wheel off the coping if they're not about to drop right in, and just try and teach them as opposed to accosting them. And I feel like that's one thing that they feel at the skate park a lot, because they don't know how to act. All they feel is the aggression for acting wrong. but no one ever told them how to act right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, very nice. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like getting a little caught off guard. My brain is going into like rabbit holes that I know we don't have time for.
Yeah, we could go a lot of different directions for sure.
I mean, honestly, my brain went to like, oh, I rollerblade. Do you guys have any rollerbladers in there?
Roller skaters, I have yet to see a roller blader.
Maybe I need to be the one.
Yeah. Ladies' night, Tuesday nights, 6 to 8.
And so you have these nights, but then you also have nights where like it's like a smorgasbord melting pot.
Yeah, open skate time is open skate time for everybody. Cool. Open wheel time, scoots, right. Roller skate, whatever. And that's good too, because then that gives the skateboarder who can't handle the scooter kid the opportunity to use a little bit of patience. Mm-hmm. And so those are the times when we as mentors in the skate park, when we see that kid just like yelling at the scooter kid and be like, hey man, like, what's up? Well, that kid snaked me. Well, what are you worried about? Losing my turn. Well, your turn's going to come back around and we all have that equal opportunity. Mm-hmm. So because when we get upset, it's because of fear of loss, fear of being misunderstood. And then so I feel like a lot of times then that shifts to anger, and it can be easily reeled back with just someone that's asking, what's going on? And presenting a little bit of what is actually going on within the room too. Like, oh, he didn't see you actually put your board down. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't malicious. Right. The kid doesn't hate you. There's no reason for you to hate them. Mm-hmm. And they're younger, give them a break. Yeah. This is a chance for you to use patience and be humble. Give away your next turn. Right. Huh. See how that feels. Beautiful. That way, and the more we give away, the less anyone can take away. Right. Very true. Very, very true. Well, honestly, Alex, it's been awesome. I mean, like, asking you to do this podcast, like, let's talk about the Hive, why you started the Hive and what it does. Like, you've definitely like answered my questions in tenfold. I think that's why you've caught me off guard a little bit. Like, I haven't even had to ask him any questions because he's just like answering them. I like to talk. No, it's good. It's good. But it's like such a just like a like beautiful concepts that, from your experiences in your life that have like shaped what the Hive is and what it's continuing to like grow into. So I love how the conversation went. We are getting low on time, so we are going to have to wrap up. I've got one final question for you. I don't know if you're ready, but I think I prompted you with it the other day. But like, I ask all my guests, what does recovery mean to you? I think recovery means recovering from the pursuit or the trauma that we find on the edges, and recovery is coming back to that middle and feeling whole. And I think, I feel like that's a subjective thing. And, but whatever makes you feel whole, that's where I want to reside. And that's where I encourage people to find that place and reside there. And I really think that it doesn't all have to be hard work. And I think that play is a great way to recover. And in play, finding that flow state where I am giving and receiving so easily, and both feels so good and beneficial. And that's what I feel at the Hive. And the Hive has stretched me in a lot of ways that I never knew I would experience, and has been promoting and elevating my life in this upward trajectory that feels so good. And I attribute it to being willing to give away some of me. And to give away some of me, that means I have to first be authentic with myself and know what I can give away. Mm-hmm. And then be open to receive like whatever challenge and whatever victory. And my 2022 mantra is I'm having fun for a living. and I want to keep it that way. And I recognize a need for work and serious work and sometimes stressful and painstaking work, but it is in order to perpetuate my fun and the fun and play of others.
Very nice. Do you pick a mantra every year?
Word
or something?
It's kind of gone off and on. The last couple of years, nothing really like hit me. I remember 2019 was like nothing's funny anymore, and most of the mantras have been like pretty negative. So it feels good just to even have an upswing.
Yeah.
And one thing I do for myself is I meditate. I work to meditate and journal every morning, and then I pull out a couple words or one word that came to me in the meditation or journaling process, and I write it down on my hand. Today's take it in. And this is one small way for me that helps me stay present with my morning routine and helps create that longevity.
Oh, cool. So that changes every day?
That's different every day. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Neat. It's like a ever evolving tattoo.
Yeah. Conversation. It's all about conversation.
Nice. Well, right on, Alex. Well, thank you so much for sharing about kind of your experiences and just what's been going on at the Hive. I've gotten to see it grow, and I get to, I'm still there witnessing it. So I'm really excited for what's to come. The Hive is in Durango, but do you want to plug, if anybody's curious about it, where can they find information about it? Yeah.
So located at 1150 Main Avenue in Durango downtown, one door south of Taco Libre. And you can find us online at thehivedgo.org and social media, Facebook and Instagram at HiveDGO.
Heck yeah.
And we've got shows coming up. We've got skate lessons. We've got art workshops in the works. We've got some ideas for some climbing and outdoor programs come spring and summer. And we also encourage anyone out there in the community, if you feel like there's a passion, a niche that is not being met within your community, whether that's in Durango or somewhere else, reach out to us, because what we want to do is to be that hub where people can come with ideas, and then we can provide resources so that way you can engage your ideas in your community and create that ownership and see the benefits for yourself and for the people immediately around you.
That's a beautiful thing. Gosh, wouldn't that be a concept? Hives popping up all over.
One day.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of people, I don't know. Tell me if this is offensive, and I hope it's not offensive, but it's almost it's like the Boys and Girls Club, but it's like a cool place. I never wanted, no offense, Boys and Girls Club. I never wanted to do any of those activities, but then
well, what I see is the difference, is that, and this is just my understanding, I don't know a whole lot about Boys and Girls Club, but sometimes it seems like you go to Boys and Girls Club, they tell you what the activity is for the day. You go to the Hive and you choose your own adventure.
Right. Nice. No, that's so awesome. Yeah. And it's like comparing apples to oranges, but
yeah. And I'm sure that they benefit a lot of people. And
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's a reason why it's a nationwide nonprofit, and it has such steam, because there's good results. And that's the thing, in that exploration, I just found that metal and hardcore music and skateboarding and snowboarding and sometimes graphic and maybe even a little disturbing art is what captivates me, and that's my passion. And so I want to continue to facilitate that, and even those alternative passions.
So cool. Sorry, I hope I didn't make any jabs at anybody. I didn't mean that. I don't know.
We love them all.
Yeah.
And it's that thing, it's recovery. However you find yourself recovered, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, whatever that looks like. So I mean, everybody's well, I guess it was a couple months. It'll have been a couple months by the time this airs, but that was what me and Garrett titled his episode, Different Strokes. We all have different strokes. So Well, right on. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, but yeah, once again, I am your host, Candace Rose. You might be hearing Kiva snoring over there. Thank you again, Alex, and Kelsey and Jeff, even though you weren't here, just like letting me steal him away from whatever's going on at the Hive. But yeah, new episodes are available to stream every other Wednesday as early as 5 a.m. Eastern time. So be sure to tune in next time. And always here at YPR, we do recover and we are in your corner.